By the end of this video, you're going to understand the thing that's driving every price increase that you've seen since 2020, that along with who ended up with your money, as well as three things that you can actually do about it. Inflation is wealth transfer, period, point blank. It's like a machine. You can actually see how it works. It's not just a rise in prices that the elites blame on too much demand or too much money circulating in the economy. It's so much more than that. Here's the problem with that idea that they have. Over the past year, wages grew slower than inflation. Wages grew at 3.7%, whereas inflation grew at 4.2%. Tell me how people are buying more when the money they have buys less. Furthermore, if there is too much money out there, where the hell is it? So demand from regular people is not what's driving up prices. And when the price of things goes up, that money doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. The question we have to ask about inflation is, where does that money go? Inflation is really predictable. It starts with some kind of shock. Think COVID supply chains, the war in Ukraine, restricted access to the Strait of Hormuz. Something real actually happens, and then it raises costs. But for corporations, their profit margins are non-negotiable. So when costs go up for them, they don't just pass that price increase along because it's not enough just to make the money that they were making. No, they want their piece of the pie. So they add their cut on top of that new price. They want a specific percentage, not a dollar amount. So let's say their margin is 10%. 10% of 100 is 10. Now, let's say their costs go up by 10%. What used to cost them $100 now costs $110. They could charge $120, but that would decrease their margin. So we have to pay more. It's not enough for them to make that same $10 that they were making before. No, they have to stick to that 10% margin. So their new cost, 10% becomes $11. And what could have cost you $120 is now $121. This is really simplified, but imagine that tiny number sized up. Let's look at the rice in your paella or your biryani or risotto, arroz con pollo, jollof rice, jambalaya, rice pudding, Mexican horchata, whatever your favorite rice thing is. Think of the journey from the rice paddy to your plate. Right now, rice farmers are paying more for fertilizers. And with this year's Super El Nino, they're going to be facing drought on top of that. And that's quite tough for a plant that's semi-aquatic. These farmers have little control over the price that they get to sell the rice at. They are price takers. But the rice miller will surely get their profit margin, as well as the distributors and the retailers. And once it makes its way to your plate, you're going to pay for any increases added after the farmer absorbed their increases. In each level of the supply chain, each price increase triggers another price increase because profit margins are non-negotiable. So as that product or service moves on to you, the increase in cost actually magnifies. UK researchers even found that some companies even increase their margins after shocks. Keep in mind that the profits don't cause the shock that drives an increase in prices. Profits merely take advantage of what's happening to protect margins or increase, and it turns something that could be temporary into a permanent price level. The first time I bought a car was in 1994. It was used, it cost $8,000, and that was a lot for a used car back then. And 5 years later, I actually bought my first new car. It had less than 10 miles on it. I was so excited. It was a manual Toyota Celica DTS. It had every option that I wanted, even low jack. Now, don't judge the car. It was cute back then. I even got pulled over once because the officer wanted to take a look at the car. It cost $22,000 back then. And that number sounds so long ago, considering the average new vehicle now costs $52,000. But before anybody comments, those were the 1900s. My Celica cost the average price of a car when I bought it. I need you to know that the average price of a new car in 2020 was around $40,000. During COVID, it was almost impossible to buy a used car and even harder to buy a new car. How did the average price of cars increase by less than $20,000 over a 20-year period and it increased by more than $10,000 over 6 years? What does that do to the budgets of people who live in cities with poor public transportation infrastructure? Because everything costs more right now. How does that person put money aside in case they need to do a repair on their car or if they have an emergency? When I moved from Miami to Orlando, it was because of affordability. And it turns out now they're both unaffordable. A friend of mine just moved because their rent for their apartment that they'd been living in for 5 years shot up to $2,000 a month. When they moved in, it was only $1,300 a month for a one bedroom, one bath. Orlando's median household income is $72,000. But keep in mind, this city runs on hospitality workers. These are the people who operate the restaurants, the theme parks, and the hotels that fill that town. And you know that these people are the heart of a town and they make well below that median income. To afford the typical Orlando rent within the 30% rule, using no more than 30% of your income, a household needs to earn more than what the local median is. So, how do people who drive this city's economy live? What happens to them this summer when the heat gets so high and your AC gets turned off because every single thing in your life costs so much more? In the neighborhood I used to live in, I'd get so many calls with offers to buy my house above the value. And for each house that sold in my neighborhood, would reset our neighborhood's home values. And the people living with tight budgets had trouble keeping up with all the property tax increases. And when we lived there, our property tax was $2,100, and that was in 2021. And this year, it's over $6,000. Of course, people can't afford increases like that. Some people in the neighborhood had to sell their homes because they couldn't afford it. Some people had to foreclose, and corporations ended up buying all those homes, and now they're all rentals. The higher home prices made higher tax assessments, and with former homeowners flooding the market, rents went up too. Every step of this is inflation, and the money went in one direction, out of our pockets. Companies have always been greedy and their costs go up too. Yes, greed is constant, but the opportunity to take advantage has really changed. Corporate power used to be just wage suppression. COVID changed that. And now there's an easier path to profit, raising prices with every single disruption that we see. If price hikes only covered costs, margins would stay at a specific number. Instead, they have been hitting historic highs and staying there. There are a few things that we can actually do. But first, hi, I'm Kina. I talk about hard things with a soft voice. If you're new here, welcome. I talk about policy and inequality and the so called American dream. Thank you so much to everybody who sent me a coffee or a super thanks. Also, thank you for hyping my videos. It turns out the month of June, I was in the top 5% of being hyped. I've also gotten a lot of comments saying that you guys aren't getting notifications, even if you're subscribed to all notifications. Tell me in the comments if I start sending you notifications by email or SMS, would that be of interest to you? It would be through a service outside of this platform. In this video, I've partnered with Proton Mail. One of the biggest things that held me back from switching to Proton Mail was everything that I used was connected to my Gmail account. But now, Proton Mail allows you to connect your Gmail account directly with Proton Mail using the Easy Switch tool. And that makes it possible for you to receive your Gmail emails without leaving the Proton ecosystem. In that way, you can seamlessly transition from Gmail while enjoying Proton's privacy benefits and not having to change all of your email habits overnight. That is until you're ready to transition over completely. Because we like our privacy, Proton offers plans ranging from free to business. I started with a free plan, whichever you choose to go with. I placed a link for you in the video description along with the blog post detailing how to connect your Gmail. First off, we need to change how we talk about inflation. When somebody blames inflation for the prices, we need to call out what it actually is: corporate profit. It's the story that people believe that actually shapes what they're going to accept. Next, we need to shop with intention. If you can buy straight from the farmer, do it. Every dollar you spend with a small business or a co op is a dollar less for that big corporation siphoning your money. Also, we need to pressure our politicians to protect its people from corporate price gouging. So we vote every single time. Those little elections we don't pay attention to are the ones where they decide on property taxes and zoning. Fire the people who aren't doing their jobs and make the turnout just too big to rig. We can't stop global shocks. I mean, we can, but it will take a lot longer to do that. But we can have an impact on how prices get amplified by making sure policies get changed. The house I used to own in Orlando didn't change. Okay, they did redo the kitchen, but other than that, only the owners changed. Inflation is a transfer of money, and we can see it if we choose to see it. And I'll see you in the next video. It's right here. Maybe it's over here. I'll let YouTube pick it for you. Okay, bye.